Hello and welcome into a college conference championship edition of the PHLY Bets show. I'm your host, Jamie Lynch. This is all made possible and brought to you by our friends over at Bet365. Find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Use promo code PHLY365 at sign up, and you can get $150 in bonus bets after a $5 wager is made. They pioneered live in-game betting. They stream the most games and cover the most markets. So make sure you're checking out Bet365 and use that promo code PHLY365. All right, some things to get into here. We have a huge game tonight on Thursday Night Football in terms of Philadelphia Eagles fans' rooting interests between the Green Bay Packers and the Detroit Lions. And then we have a couple big conference championship games this weekend. The college football playoff is all but set with 11 of the 12 spots pretty much secured. Alabama is going to wiggle in there, it seems. But there's some championship games and some spots up for grabs. But let's get it started with the Packers and Lions game tonight in Ford Field. Don't have to worry about the cold, blistery Lambeau Field conditions. And right now on Bet365, the Packers are 3.5-point dogs. Over-under on this one is 51.5. And if you like the Packers to win outright, you can get them at plus 155 on the money line there. All right, a couple good things between the division rivals here. Jared Goff, and Jordan Love have faced off 3 times, and in all 3 situations, the road team has won. The favorites on games played on Thursday Night Football have dominated in recent years. Straight up, the favorite is winning 75% of these games on the short week. They are 53-18 straight up. Against the spread tells a different story. Only 38-33, so slightly above 500 there, but straight up. So that means if you're a money line bettor and minus 185 tonight on the Lions isn't too much for you, then it's probably a pretty smart bet. Matt LaFleur is a great coach as an underdog for the Green Bay Packers. He is hitting in his career 67% of the time as an underdog. He is 24-12 against the spread as a dog in his career. And Green Bay under LaFleur has an amazing 18-5 against the spread record as an underdog of 3 points or more, and 14-3 against the spread as a dog of more than 3 points. 18-5 as an underdog of 3 points or more, and similar stat there. I made some weird notes, so excuse me on that. 14-3 against the spread as a dog of 3 points or more. With the Lions, Jared Goff is 15-6 against the spread versus the NFC North, so he's done pretty well in division play. The Packers are just 2-4 against the spread in their last 6 games. The under is 4-2 in the Packers' last 6 games. Lions, we've talked about them a lot this year. They are covering at an absurd rate, nearly 71% of the games dating back to 2021. They're 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 games versus the Packers. Packers are 1-6 against their last 7 in Detroit. And the Lions are 8-2 against the spread in their last 10 games. Lions are 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 games versus divisional opponents. That being said, this seems too easy to me. I like to play the game, kind of guess that line. And when I saw this game on Monday morning, I said, this is probably a Lions -5, maybe 4.5, 5. It opened at 3. It moved up to 3.5. It's been as low as 2.5. It seems to have settled back in at 3.5. I think this is a line that is just screaming for the public to take the Lions because of their high cover rate. So because of that reason, I know Green Bay is probably going to become the popular pick here. The Lions are pretty beat up. They have a lot of defensive injuries. The Packers need this probably more, although the Lions know the Eagles are on their heels for the number 1 seed. I'm going to go with the Packers here. I used to love it, but now they're becoming kind of like the talked about underdog to play here. So I've kind of waned off loving them, and I just like them. So I'm going to go with the Packers tonight. to cover the 3.5 points in Detroit. Just feel like this is a spot where the Lions can be had. So now moving on to college football this weekend. It is conference championship weekend, and we get a little Friday night action in the Mountain West Championship game between UNLV and Boise State, with spots up for grabs. So here's what's at stake. If Boise State is able to take care of business in this game, the Broncos are on track to earn a first-round bye in the college playoffs. If UNLV wins, the Runnin' Rebels are likely going to rank just behind the Big 12 champ and should still sneak in as a 12 seed. So a lot on the table here for both teams. Some would say do or die for UNLV, and they would be correct. So Boise State is 11-1 on the year. They're just 6-6 against the spread, and they beat up the Running Rebels, who are in the second year under new head coach. Last year, they lost 44-20 to Boise State in the Mountain West title game, but they covered earlier this year as a 4-point favorite over UNLV. They won 29-24, so they just covered that number by 1 point. That was back in late October at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. Boise has failed to cover 3 of their last 4. Boise has put together that 6-6 against the spread record, as we mentioned, and UNLV has put together a 7-5 against the spread record so far on the year. So right now on Bet365, UNLV is a 4-point dog. Over-under on this one is 57.5, and Boise State minus 185 on the money line, UNLV plus 155. I'm going to go with Boise State here. Ashton Genty can really kind of make a strong final push for the Heisman vote here, as he's probably going to lose out to Travis Hunter. But those two are the favorites to take home the Heisman. So look for the running back to have a big day. I do like the over in this one, and give me Boise State to cover. Although UNLV is feisty, I think they could very well keep that number close. So I'll take Boise State and the over here on a little Friday night college championship action in the Mountain West. All right, diving into Saturday's slate of games. We got a Big 12 championship. We got an SEC championship. We got an ACC championship and a surprise visit from Penn State in the Big 10 championship. Let's start with the Big 12 title getting played in Jerry World down in Dallas, Texas. Hopefully the shades are drawn and the guys don't have to deal with too much sunlight down there. But Arizona State right now currently on Bet365 is a 2-point favorite over the Cyclones and Rocco Becht and the Iowa State squad. Over-under on this one is 49.5. Arizona State, if you just want to take the money line, it's cheap enough where if you just want to eliminate the points, take them to win, you can get Arizona State minus 125 there. Arizona State has covered 10 of their last 12 games. So a very good against the spread team. Iowa State, on the other hand, is 7-4 against the spread this year. The Cyclones have the best scoring defense in the Big 12, and they are allowing opponents fewer than 20 points per game. They have not played each other this year, but they do have some common opponents on the schedule. They both beat up on UCF, Utah, and Kansas State. They both lost to Texas Tech, and the Cyclones defeated Cincinnati and lost to Kansas, whereas Iowa State the Sun Devils did just the opposite of that. So flip-flop those. So their common opponent schedule, really can't read a whole lot into it because they pretty much were even Steven right down the middle there. Arizona State has gone over in 4 of its last 5 games, and Iowa State has split its last 6 against the total, just going 3-3. Cyclones have scored 29 or more points in 4 consecutive games, while the Sun Devils have eclipsed 24 points in 5 straight games. As a favorite this year, Arizona State is a darling. They are 7-0 against the spread as a favorite. That being said, give me the Sun Devils. I'll lay the 2 with them. That's a money line, minus 125. I would consider taking and just eliminating all the points. And I lean slight over here of the 49.5 number. No real massively strong feeling there, but I would tend to bet the under or over in this game. All right, the SEC Championship played down in the Mercedes-Benz Dome in Atlanta, Georgia, has the Georgia Bulldogs and Texas Longhorns facing off. Currently, right now on Bet365, and this is a 4 o'clock Saturday game. Right now, Texas is minus 2.5 on the spread. Over-under on this one, again, is 49.5. And very similarly, only a little higher priced on the money line to our last game. Texas is minus 140 on the money line, meaning you got to risk $140 to win 100. Georgia plus 120 on the money line. This is probably the best game of the weekend, although you can make the case Oregon-Penn State is the best game. Yeah, debatable. I think it's this one. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty of this game. Offensively, the Texas Longhorns are a beast. They're the 4th-rated offense, 8th in successful rushing rate, 11th in EPA per drop back. Steve Sarkisian, the head coach, has this offense humming. And they have, just the nation's 2nd-ranked defense behind them. Not a bad combination. Texas is winless, 0-3 against the spread when in a 1-score game this season, tied for the worst mark amongst power conference teams. Carson Beck, we talked about him a lot this year. He's had, at one point, he was averaging 2 interceptions per game. Well, he appears to have righted the ship in the last 3. He has 11 touchdowns to 0 picks over his last 3 starts. So Georgia's kind of turned a corner a little bit here. Texas is 3-5 against the spread this year versus SEC teams. Georgia is 3-2 against the spread versus ranked opponents. Texas is 7-5 against the spread this year as a favorite. This is a tough one. Give me Texas, but I don't even like it that much. This is just for the purposes. I'm going to bet something in this game. I'll probably take the over, although these are 2 great defenses going at it. So you very well could make the case for the under. Slight lean towards Texas, but I am a little gun shy after Texas in their big early season tests this year versus the SEC. Just looked like they didn't belong after beating up a bunch of nobodies. So I wonder if Georgia's strength of schedule is something that could, pay big dividends for the Bulldogs in this one. Slight lean to Texas. Don't love much in this game, although it's going to be an awesome game. So I'm going to have some fun, maybe throwing a little parlay or something there. But that's the game of the weekend down in Atlanta, Georgia. All right, the ACC Championship getting played in Charlotte, North Carolina. Thanks to Syracuse's big win last weekend, they snuck Clemson University into the ACC Championship game, and they're taking on the SMU Mustangs. Now, SMU, if they take care of business in this game, is a college football playoff team this year, making it a very fun season for them. Yet they're only a 2-point favorite in this. Clemson could sneak in as the conference winner. Over-under on this one comes in at 55. And if you want to take SMU on the money line on Bet365, it's just minus 130. So something to consider there. The SMU Mustangs rank 63rd in terms of strength of schedule this year, while Clemson comes in at 60th. So both of these teams were kind of equally tested on the year. The SMU team is just better on paper, and they went 8-4 against the spread on the season. The under has been the play in Clemson games as of late. They have gone under in 8 of their last 11 games. Clemson is 9-1 straight up over its last 10 games versus the ACC. The total has gone over in 6 of SMU's last 9 games, and the Clemson rushing defense is just terrible. And the Mustangs are probably going to put up multiple explosive rushing plays against a Tigers defense that currently comes in 126th in defensive rush EPA per play. So that being said, give me SMU. I think Clemson's kind of a fraud this year. I'll take SMU minus the 2. Might even buy that one down, or might even just hit the money line on that at minus 130. Again, over. I'm just not a big under player. So I'd probably lean on the over on that one. And then finally, the Big Ten championship game at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. thanks to the Ohio State embarrassing loss to Michigan last week. Penn State wiggles in here and gets to play the undefeated Oregon Ducks and Dylan Gabriel quarterbacking the Ducks. Kind of a little bit of a Penn State line, I think. The Oregon Ducks only -3.5 in this game on the neutral field. Over-under is 49.5. Money line, Penn State +150, Oregon -180. We talked about it earlier this year. Oregon has had no trouble traveling to the East Coast or different time zones. It really hasn't affected them. Phil Knight's probably got these boys all sitting first class and, with like ankle massages and blood flow mechanisms. They just have figured it out. They don't get phased traveling in time zones. James Franklin and the Penn State defense, if they're going to win this game, it's going to be on the heels of Abdul Carter and that stellar defense. They have a really good secondary. We've gone over a lot of the numbers with Penn State this year. The defense is spectacular. The offense at time, it's very effective in terms of per play and EPA per drop back and rush and this and that. But when it comes to stretching the field and those big explosive plays and putting the ball in the end zone, those are fairly important to winning football games. Penn State comes up a little short there. So James Franklin's defense is weaker this year when they're away from Beaver Stadium. They're allowing 20 extra rushing yards away from the home field and 50 extra passing yards per game. On average, they're allowing just under 200 yards away from home. And on the ground, they're allowing almost 110 yards per game, which don't sound that bad, but when you compare them to what they do at home, it's a pretty significant difference. Oregon's last 8 games as a favorite against ranked teams have gone under, which is abnormal for me because I always think of Oregon as a big over team. But when they go steel versus steel, they are an underplay. Penn State is 0-7 against the spread in its last 7 games versus top 25 scoring defenses. Not great. The over has hit in 4 of Penn State's last 6 games versus top 25 scoring defenses. So a little bit to the over there. And then the under has hit in 6 of Oregon's last 8 games as the favorite. I like Oregon to cover this one. The fact the line's not a little bit higher, kind of like the Lions-Packers thing, would have thought this would have been more like a 5.5 type of line. So I do think Penn State and the defense and Abdul Carter is going to keep him in this and give him a puncher's chance. But I like Oregon to pull off the 3.5 cover. Again, you're going to be shocked, but I kind of like the over. 49.5 here. There's no way all these games go over, so don't listen to me. I'm an idiot. And then the money line, -180 is a little too rich for my blood to take the Ducks, but I do kind of like them to cover this one. If Penn State's going to pull this off, it's going to be on the heels of their defense. And if that happens, it's definitely an under game. So there's the preview for this weekend's college championship big games. Not going to dive into Lehigh, Idaho, and Marshall, University of Louisiana, Lafayette, and UC Davis, Illinois State. Just the big 5 out there that's going to shape the college football playoffs. Part of me is very sad it's already conference championship weekend, but I'm very, very excited for the college football playoffs coming up. 11 of the 12 teams pretty much locked in. We'll see if Clemson can pull off the upset or if UNLV can pull off the upset to maybe wiggle into that 12th spot. But it's going to be a great college football playoffs coming up over the next couple weeks. If Penn State wins and they get a bye, that's pretty wild. But I think Oregon pulls it off. So that's it for this edition of PHLY Bets. Remember, download the Bet365 app. Use promo code PHLY365. You can get $150 in bonus bets after a $5 wager. And remember, this is supposed to be fun. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, you have to be located in the state of Pennsylvania, by the way, to use Bet365. Reach out. Call or text 1-800-GAMBLER at any time. Please don't bet above your means. This is supposed to be fun. Me and my cousins were throwing in $20 parlays on Thanksgiving Day, and it's just, you're with your boys or your girls, and you're just throwing in some bets. My wife was following along at our parlay that we almost hit, and she was feeling the fun. A $5 bet would have paid us $3.75 each. So have fun with it and be responsible. And if you or someone you know wants help, please reach out to the proper channels. But let's make some money out there this weekend. Let's have fun, and hopefully everybody pick some winners this weekend. It starts tonight. Let's go Pack. Go Pack go. Thanks to Bet365 for presenting this show. And we'll be back on Sunday to preview the NFL Week 14 slate then. Until then, I'll see you soon.
We all silly like the mayor.